All right. Welcome back to Redcord Draft. This is playoffs round two. Um, yeah, we got four more games to go over. This is officially top eight. So all these battles are for top eight. The winners will move on to semifinals, and then we'll go from there. So I got four games for you guys today. This first one, Cable versus Waffles. A little bit of backstory behind this one. Waffles is very well. He's going out of the country for the next 2 weeks. At this point, he's already in Japan, which is really awesome. That's cool. Love that. He did not want to do draft while he was out in Japan. He just wanted to enjoy it, which a fucking course, right? Makes sense. So he decided to forfeit this game, but him and Cable decided to play out just because. So because of that, Waffles had a bit of a more serious team just because he likes his team and wanted to run it one last time, give it one last dance. While Cable kind of brought some more joke stuff because he knew it wasn't going to matter at the end of the day. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this since the battle one didn't matter and two, one person brought kind of some jokey sets. So, I mean, we'll just go right through. I feel like I still have to cover this, but yeah, we'll just go right through it. We see. Okay, hold on. I'm a little thrown off here. Actually, let's see. I'm going through this too quick. We got Terra flying on Thundo, and then I think is that the only Terra on the Inteleon's the other one which didn't get brought. Yeah, so no Inteleon, just Terra fly Thundo. So we can assume something like Scarf Terra Blast, Terra Fly. Um, in the meantime, over on Cable side, we got Terra Fight Komodo, and then we got Terrifier Iron Crown. Um, Terrifier Iron Crown is really obvious. It's to interact with this fortress in some way. You're either bluffing the fact that you have Terrifier Terra Blast, so you can't have fortress come in on it, um, or you actually have it and you want to kill it. Either way, that is something to consider. And then on the other end, we have Terrify Komo. This would tell me it's probably body press, just in general, because you don't really run Terra Fight like that unless you need the power boosts. Being a dragon fighting type, like you don't really gain a whole lot from going fighting unless it's for offensive purposes, which is the point of this Komo. Is it is iron defense. So we're going to see lead Coco versus lead Loking. These two have the same idea off this lead. They want to lead a mod and pivot out, just plain and simple, which is exactly what they both do. Cable clicks U-turn and puts Mamo on the field because it's a Glow King, so you might as well, while Waffles chilies out and puts Fortress on the field because it beats Mamo. Cable's going to trade rocks on this, and Waffles will accept it because he's got a spinner. But he predicts a swap out here, thinking that Fortress kind of like hardwalls this Mamo, so why would he stay in and not go like Moltres? So he's predicting a Volt Switch on Moltres coming in. But Cable just decides to stay in and click Earthquake, getting the damage, which you'll see why he wants that damage in a second. He's going to click Earthquake again, which is very interesting given the next turn. So let me play this out for a little bit as Waffles rapid spins, and Cable's going to reset rocks because, I mean, why not? And then Waffles is going to get a fat body press on this Mamoswine. And then finally, Cable's going to click Natural Gift with an... was it an... It was some weird berry that doesn't have use in battle, but it gives you 90 base power Natural Gift with fire type in order to break this fortress. This is a really sick bring. Unfortunately, it was misplayed a little bit. I feel like you should have just ripped it after the first Earthquake. Like, I feel like it's pretty obvious that Waffles is just going to stand and spin. Waffles is working under the assumption that this fortress is the wall to Mamoswine, and it doesn't really do anything else here, right? I mean, I guess you could save it for Crown, but at the end of the day, Slowking is going to take Crown's hits pretty alright and be able to chili Reception out, and let Waffles get in something like the Ogre Pawn Heartflame. Now, given if it goes Terrifier, that could be an issue, but on the other end, he could just go something like Ursaluna, because I believe the full health Ursaluna is living no matter what. He could go Thundo and Terrablast, Terrafly. He doesn't really need this fortress. It's really just hazard control, and it hits and it stops the Mamoswine, which is exactly what it's doing currently. So Elfos is perfectly okay with just staying in here. Meanwhile, Cable's Mamoswine takes half its health when he had a counter for it. So, items gone, and then in comes this Ogre Pawn Hearthflame. Now, it's got Mold Breaker, so Thick Fat is not going to take effect here. I think that would have killed even if it wasn't Mold Breaker, but it's fine. We're going to see Komodo come out. Now, this is just gambling if this doesn't play rough, plain and simple. So, He's going to Terra Fight in front of it anyways, just in case it does, but Waffles is just going to U-turn out. Slowking's going to come in as he goes for Iron Defense. I mean, again, very simple set. But the problem is with a set like this, while this set is good, I do think this Iron Defense set is stronger than most of this team. He has no way to get through Slowking Galar, to which he can just sit here, right? We're going to see this Earthquake come off. It's going to do 26 through the Berry, which means it was doing just over half otherwise. Cherry Berry is really cool to predict the paralysis, but there's literally nothing stopping Waffles from just doing it again. So Cable's going to autotomize enough that it won't matter, and then get Thunder in. But again, he's revealed all 4 moves pretty much, because we can assume if it's Iron Defense at Terra Fight, like, we know the last move is Body Press. What the fuck does this do to Lando? Or not Lando, Thundo? Yeah. So that's not really going to work. Cable's going to get Coco in. Now, he can't actually click electric moves into this because of Volt Absorb, which is really funny, which is a little bit of dual purpose on the Terra Fly. He's just going to click D-Leam. I want to say that was Specs, but unfortunately that does actually -3 damage because it's the Cloaking. And we're going to go hard Iron Crown now, expecting no T-Wave, but Waffles just chilies out, and now this is on the field, Ogerpunk can just come in. This is clearly Balloon in order to beat Ursaluna, but like Waffles has an Ogerpon, so he really doesn't care that much. Cable is going to go to Sinistcha, and based on this damage, we know that it's Ability Shield. To which he can U-turn crit is a little rough, but he can just Strength Sap. But Waffles knows this, so he's going to go to this. Strength Sap's not going to heal very much. You're going to get a Calm Mind as he just pivots out again. Again, he just doesn't have great ways to break this Cloaking at the end of the day. Like, his strong ground type is dead, so he can't just force it out like he can otherwise. He can't even threaten, like, a double into Mamoswine because it's dead. Like, there's no single mana in this team that's going to, like, actually force Slowking out on one turn. They're all far too weak for that. And now this comes in. It doesn't matter that you're +1 Spadef. You're going to probably die, so Kokos has to come in. And we know it's Scarf, so he can just click it twice. Waffles is going to choose here to just stay in and get damage. We're going to see Future Sight, which is just so weird from what seems to be a more offensive one. Now, Gravity is really cool, but again, you still have nothing to beat this Cloaking. So at this point, it can just pivot out for free. You get Thunder back in. We're going to see more damage, even more damage. Crit is... I want to pause and just say that they were in VC, both server deafened, so they couldn't hear us, but we could hear them. And Waffles just says, that didn't do enough. I'll just crit this one anyways. Yeah, I mean, it didn't matter. Again, he had already forfeited this game. This was really just for vibes. But, yeah, we're going to see Burn Up Moltres. Again, we're just bringing goofy sets. But last comes Baxcalibur, and he's going to be able to clean it up pretty easily. Not worried about getting burned from Moltres because of Thermal Exchange, and he can just clean it up with 2 Scale Shots. And that'll do it. Now, again, I kind of rushed through that, but this game didn't really matter, and one person brought some fucking around sets, so I didn't think it was worth really going super in-depth into. So we'll just go to the next one, which is me. Alright. So, me versus Sableye. I have a lot of thoughts about this game. So, a little bit of backstory on our playoff system here. You can see that the rules are stated here. The top 4 seats from regular season get to pick these 4, right? And if you're all of my viewers really are from Redcord, so you all know this at this point. But I chose. I want to give a little bit of backstory behind why I, in the first seed, chose Sableye over everyone else. The reason is just because the matchup was the best. I'm gonna be so perfectly honest with you all. The matchup was the best, and we hadn't fought in regular season. I had fought, of these 4, I had fought 2 of these people in regular season. I fought Waffles, but it was only week 2, and while I beat him, he made a bunch of trades around week 4, and souped up his team big time. I did not like my matchup into his new team, so I was not keen on picking Waffles. Nilly also, I also fought in the regular season, and while I did win that game, it was closer than I would have enjoyed, really. And Terra Tornadus Therian is like actually something that gives me heart attacks at night, so I was not very keen on fighting her either. Lastly is Typical. Just plain and simple, I did not want to fight Typical. I think his team is quite strong. Well, maybe not super strong, but it is still pretty good into me. His ace is a Terracera Ledge, which is not great when my one of my biggest defensive, or my two big defensive pieces are a Deoxys defense and a Celesteal that are both weak to that mon. And also, Typical overall is just a really solid player. So I didn't really want to work with that. Not to say that Sableye is a bad player, but would you rather pick, if two players ever equal skill, would you rather pick the team that the matchup isn't like it isn't bad for you, but it's not great either. It's probably like around even, maybe slightly winning for you, or would you pick the matchup that like you actually just destroy this team? My team just completely obliterates Sableye. So here's my team. We have Dragapult, Urshifu, we have the Terrazon, Celesteal, and Cinderace, Gardevoir, Mega, and then we have this defensive core at the bottom here between Gastrodon, Deoxys, and Eldegoss. Regigigas is tacked on because I looked at Monim's team, saw Spectrier into my team, didn't like it, so I picked him up for 2 points. Little did I know I would never have to fight Monim, so you know what, it worked out. But if we scroll over to Sableye's team, we can see we once again, I've gone over this before, but we have this like bulky offense core, right? We have Melmetal, we have Clefable, we have Sableye Mega. This makes up a majority of the bulk on the team. We have Regenerator Cyclizar for solid hazard control. We have this double Scarf core between Latias and Zapdos Galar, if he opts for it. He doesn't have to, of course. We have Swampert for pivot and hazard control, and then Raikou with Terra is also there, which can do an assortment of things. It can be a Volt Switch spammer, it can be sub CM, it can just come in and click big attacks with Terra. There's a lot of things it can do. But the reason my matchup is so good into this team is just he doesn't have great ways to break me, and I have good ways to break him. At the end of the day, if you look at Urshifu into this team, the only resist is Clefable. Given that, Clefable basically is relegated to exclusively an Urshifu check. And even if it is coming in exclusively on Urshifu, if I click U-turn, I get in Celesteela. If I get in Celesteela and Clefable, there are no switch-ins for Celesteela. The only steal resist is Melmetal, to which Celesteela has more than enough coverage to hit Melmetal. If I want to go more physical, I can run Earthquake, or I could run Flamethrower to hit on the special side, which is what I ended up doing, because Melmetal does not have special defense, right? There's just not great answers for Celesteela, and I ended up going max attack, almost max attack, plus attack nature, I forget which one. I also don't want to open my team builder right now, because I do have my Team for Noodle loaded up, who I fight this weekend, and I do not want to leak that, or have to re-record. We have, Heavy Slime just doesn't have great switch-ins, and because of how attack invested I am, I actually 2-co Sableye, always. Especially because I'm Terra, and I decided to go with Terra Steel this time around. In addition, I have a Gardevoir Mega. Why is that significant? Because Sableye has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or more like 4.5 Mons that are weak to Fairy. In addition, Raikou is not taking hits from Mega Gardevoir. Swampert's not taking hits from Mega Gardevoir. Clefable, we've already stated, is basically relegated to an Urshifu check. It's just Melmetal, who, aforementioned, does not have special defense, and Gardevoir gets Mystical Fire. So, I have a bunch of Nuclear Bombs, right? I haven't even mentioned one of them yet. What the fuck? What? I had the captain of my team is a Dragapult. Okay, well, he is a Clefable, right? Well, again, as I just mentioned, Clefable is relegated to an Urshifu check, because otherwise Urshifu 15-0s this team, because he doesn't have resist otherwise. So, what does he do about Dragapult? In my, when I was thinking about this game, I went back and forth about what he could do. I had a couple of ideas, and I had a couple of ideas what I should run. There was times where I ran Specs Pult, which I thought was fine, but if you brought Cyclizar, Shadow Balling would have been really awkward, so I wasn't keen on it. I ended up with just doing the classic Sub-Willow Hex set, which gets countered by Mega Sableye, but if Sableye ever clicks Mega, that means that Gardevoir is a free switch to it. Because if I don't Mega Gardevoir, I stay base, I get Trace, I can trace the magic bounce, and then Sableye can't do anything really. Um, Especially from what Sableye has run in the past. He's typically run like Will-O-Wisp, T-Wave, Hex, Knockoff, Recover. Some combination of those 5 moves have been what he's run a majority of the time. That might have been 6 moves. I'm not great. I don't count. So I'm a political science major. Um, so because of that, if I trace the magic bounce, Knockoff doesn't barely does any damage. I'm holding a Mega Stone. Hex doesn't do anything. I've a good spit app. It's base 60. And I went my I'll talk about that in a second actually. And then if I trace the magic bounce, I reflect all status moves. He can't do anything. So it's because of that that I ran a very interesting Gardevoir. I had Hyper Voice and Moonblast both packed because it wasn't just the Sableye that I wanted to trace. I could trace Unaware from Clefable. If it ran a Calm Mind set with Unaware, I could trace that. I could trace Magic Guard as well. That'd be really cool. Stop statuses. Um, I could trace Defiant from Zapdos. Now, there wasn't a ton of use for that, but say I get a Moonblast drop from Clefable. Wait, no, Defiant is attack. Never mind, that doesn't matter literally at all. I'm stupid. I could trace Pressure from Raikou, which is solid. It's not great, but it is something. I could trace Levitate from Latias, and that means I can beat Swampert one-on-one. The big one, though, I could trace Regenerator from Cyclizar, which is really, really sick, because that is how Trace works. But because of how strong Gardevoir was into this team, I figured it would be a Solve S Mail Battle, because otherwise he just doesn't have switch-ins. Like, literally. There are just no switch-ins. So, yeah. The only other thing to mention with this team is the hazards were really annoying. This is the first team I've drafted in a while with, like, actually pretty relatively weak hazard control. I say relatively with a lot of emphasis on that word because I'm used to drafting teams with heavy hazard control. It's just my playstyle. And this team does not have that. I got Core Change Cinderace, Stealth Rocks Gastrodon, and Deoxys, and then Rapid Spin and Eldegoss. Which, the double Stealth Rocks is nice, but that's it. I could run Spikes on Gastrodon, but Gastrodon's not even the strongest there is, and my hazard control is a Core Change Cinderace and a 3-point Rapid Spinner, which Eldegoss is good. It's good for 3 points, don't get me wrong, but it's still 3 points at the end of the day. So, if he got hazards up, that could pose an issue for me, which would be a little annoying, but between him having Magic Bounce, I just decided I was never going to put hazards. I put the thing on him to run hazards, and I put Core Change Cinderace on my team, which Cinderace was already, like, pretty solid. It could just be a breaker to hit Melmetal and Clef. Yeah, and Pyro Ball just overall was really strong into this team, and I could U-turn in front of Swampert. So, the hazards could be annoying, but also he had to respect my court change. So, it wasn't, like, the worst thing in the world. Yeah, alright, well, I guess we'll just load into the battle. So we see two things. We see the Terras. We have Terra Dark on Raikou, as well as Terra Grass on Zapdos Galar. I figured that the Terra Grass was just to do two things. One, you could swap into Leech Seed Celesteela and stop me from healing, which is one of the better ways to beat Celesteela, is to just stop Leech Seed from happening, because otherwise Leech Seed Sub-Protect can be really annoying for a lot of teams. So that was nice. Two, I know that I have a Gastrodon on my team. It could be for that. I wasn't entirely convinced, because Gastrodon doesn't have the greatest Fizz Def, and I figured two Brave Birds might just kill anyways, but it is worth noting. The other thing is my Terras. I have Terra Steel Celesteela, as I mentioned. The plan is to click Steel on this and just click Heavy Slam, because there's no switch-ins. But I also have Terra Grass Cinderace. This is just to make it look like I have a Grass move to hit Swampert. That's it. It's really that. I don't. It's just a mind game. That's all I can really do with this Terra. And Sableye, I talked to him after this game, and he knew that. He knew it was just a mind game. He didn't care about it, but, worth noting. So, other things to note about this game, there's no Latias, which makes my life a bit easier. I didn't have, like a Calm Mind Latias could have been scary for me. I have a Scarf Urshifu anyway, so it's not, like, the worst thing in the world, but it could have been annoying. So only Zapdos is here. So I'm kind of already thinking in my head that the only Scarfer is going to be Zapdos. And if I kill Zapdos, I'll have speed control for the rest of the game. and I could force it out quite often. Basically, this game is going to center around a lot of Zapdos, and even though the Zapdos ends up not being Scarf, we're going to see that kind of play out anyways. So I'm going to lead Urshifu. He's going to lead Zapdos. I'm just going to assume it's Scarf and go to this. Um, he's going to click Grass immediately. Now, the reason he did this, um, what was the move? I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but there was a move that hit him that would have just like OHKO'd basically. So he just decided to go Grass in case I was Scarf because he's not, and I stayed in. But I'm assuming this is Scarf myself, so I'm going to this. Um, yeah, what was it? Why am I like blanking? I don't remember. But um, I just go straight to Deoxys. Going Deoxys on the Zapdos is literally always the plan. Because this is built for Deoxys and Melmetal, but with no Latias, my Celesteela kind of gets eased up quite a bit, which means I can kind of use that as a Melm switch anyways. And besides, Melm isn't going to come in like super frequently because it kind of needs to be safe for Gardevoir. So it's really like not a huge deal. But yeah, I learned from this close combat that this is actually Banded Zapdos. Jolly Nature. So, or whatever the plus speed nature is that does minus attack. I still haven't memorized the nature fucking 7 years into playing this format. Coming up on 8, actually. Jesus Christ. I've been here too long. Anyways, yeah, and we'll see that I'm running Helmet. Again, this was originally like going to be my Melm answer, and this is why Helmet is just really strong into this team. I can catch U-turns from this and punish it. Melmetal with Double Iron Bash is going to take 2 hits from Helmet. Sableye thought I might bring Gastrodon just to catch Flip Turns from Swampert for Storm Drain, but in my head, there wasn't a ton of opportunities for Swampert to come in on this team in general. He didn't really hardwall anything. He wasn't really a guaranteed check to anything. So I figured that he wasn't going to get as much play as normal. Even if he did get brought, and even if he did, like, I could punish Flip Turn just fine with a Rocky Helmet. It was not an issue for me. Or I could go Celesteela and click Sub in front of it, because Sub literally stopped everything that Swampert could do. So, we're going to get some chip on the Zapdos. Raikou's going to come in. I choose to click Knockoff here, because I'm okay with removing any item from this guy. And then I choose to click Recover. The reason I click Recover is because I thought he might click T-Bolt or Volt Switch. And if he did, I would get below half, which would put me in range of Zapdos. So I choose to recover the first time because I can heal up off the T-Bolt and then I can teleport out. But it just ends up looking stupid because I get Toxic and take Shadow Ball damage before I swap out. I go to my Scarf Urshifu, but I just U-turn. I don't click Wicked Blow because I want to U-turn off the face of the Clefable. I choose to go Dragapult because I know for a fact that he's clicking T-Bolt. I won't get parried, I'll be faster, and I'll click Dragon Darts and kill it. I'm okay with this being in front of the Clefable. I don't really care about that. I don't really want my Urshifu to be in front of it, because I kind of just get stranded. Meanwhile, this he knows I'm probably choiced, so if Clef comes in on the Wicked Blow, I have to hard swap out, and he can predict me a lot more easily there, whereas Dragapult's not really the case. I could click something like Sub, I could U-turn out, I could even be D-Dance. There's a lot of stuff there that's worth playing. I'm just much more comfortable with killing this with D-Darts here. But T-Bolt Paras, which is really frustrating because with no Sableye, my set is Sub-Willow Hex D-Darts, which fried this team with no Sableye. So I was not very pleased about that T-Bolt. Yeah, and you'll see me complain in chat, which I apologize for. I really shouldn't be doing that. I get even more upset when I get full parried here, because if I break out, I just kill this with D-Darts. So I choose to make some plays. I go to Urshifu. I think he's going to save this, so I U-turn again, which didn't work. And I go back to Dragapult. Now, I'll make a small mistake here. In my head, I go, okay, he's just going to Shadow Ball. I'll go back to Urshifu. He lives T-Bolt anyways, but that was my original thinking. But at the same time, I still stand by this play because I think it was better to save the Dragapult for the sack. Because at this point, with what happened with my Deoxys and how badly I'm going to need Celesteela to kind of like beat Melmetal in a potential endgame, I prefer having this to force him into not clicking CC into me, one, but two, I keep the sack. The sack is really important. I don't exactly need health on Urshifu. It's like I would prefer it, but I don't need it. I need enough to live a Rocky Helmet, and that's it. So I choose to go back to Urshifu. I take this T-Bolt, which does a shit ton of damage. I don't get parried, thank God. And I just click the Scarf U-turn. Now I can go to anything here, but I choose Celesteela, which just about forces into Zapdos. Again, I'm going to pick the sack and Dragapult. He's going to lock in a Blaze Kick, which means I just get a free Cinderace because it's resistant and does no damage. And I choose to click Willow, because Willow pretty much hits everything. If it doesn't hit and if Clef comes in, I get to learn very early on if it's Magic Guard or not, which is very useful information. But every other mon on this team does not want to get Will-O-Wisped. Whereas quite a few of them are actually okay with taking a Pyro Ball. I choose to U-turn. I thought he would be faster. I thought I would take the hit and U-turn out, but he showed me that that wasn't the case, so he just decided yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, I just get U-turn damage and Cinderace doesn't get touched, which is fine. I trace the Regenerator, which was the plan, and I go to this because I think Knockoff is coming, but at the same time, now that this is burned, I take 0 damage, and Regenerator will eat it. I'll eat it all back up anyways, which means I get a free Gardevoir. And again, Gardevoir is extremely strong into this team. It's exactly what I want. He's going to click Power Whip, which is the strongest move in this scenario. I click Mystical Fire, calling the Melmetal. I just think the Melmetal is going to come in. I think it's a Assault Vest. I think he saves this because it's Regenerator, even though it's burned. But he just stays in and hits me. So now this turn I'm going, okay, he's sacking this. Right, that's what that play was. He's sacking this. Sableye might have been thinking, I should have asked him this in the postgame, but he might have been thinking, since I traced the Regenerator, that I don't want a Mega. I want to keep the Regenerator. And because of that, he might have been thinking that I don't have a move to hit him. Because most Mega Gardevoirs run exclusively Hyper Voice. So if I never click Mega, I don't get a Fairy move, and I can't really hit the Cyclozar. However, this is not most Mega Gardevoirs, and I planned for this scenario, and I am running both Moonblast and Hyper Voice in order to hit this. I take a lot of damage, but again, I'm Regenerator, so it's not the worst. And then Zapdos comes in. So again, the plan is always Deoxys. He clicks Knockoff, which is very cool. Very, very good bring. I get my Helmet Chip, which is nice. And this goes down. Now, this goes down to 67%. The thing to note about this is Urshifu can kill, but it's a roll in his favor. So I don't really want to do that. That's not a preference of mine. I could go Urshifu and U-turn. That's an idea. But I don't have great switch-ins to this anymore. Now that this is dead, I actually prefer to keep my Cinderace alive to be able to deal with the Melmetal now that my Helmet Mon is dead. And Celesteela can beat the rest, but I also don't want him to take a hit. Because if Celesteela gets knocked off, my leftovers are gone. That'll make my life a lot more difficult. So I choose to go Gardevoir. Now, you might be thinking, that's stupid, he's Bandit, he's going to kill you. This Gardevoir is different. It's max HP, max attack. If you look at Sableye's speed tiers on this team, you have his Fast Mon and Raikou, and then you have a couple of mons floating around base 100. You have Latias and Zapdos Galar. Now I want you to, and then you have his fastest mon is Cyclozar as well. So outside of these four, which are all base 100 or above, oh shit, I fucked up how I wanted to click there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Outside of these four, find his next fastest mon. Yeah, it's like base 60 basically. It's Swampert or Clefable. So I can run Gardevoir 2 ways in this matchup. I can run max speed and speed tie the Zapdos Galar, and go for the speed tie. Or I could go max HP and make it a much bulkier set and make it stick on the field for much longer. So I decided to go with the bulky set. Even though this thing has base 60-something HP and base 60-something defense, given all my HP investment, I eat the knockoff like a champion and kill this backup Mystical Fire, which that crit did not matter. The 2 helmet procs put him in range of the Mystical Fire, which was great. Clef comes in, and at this point, I have a choice between staying in and just hitting this, or going Celesteela and clicking Heavy Slam. He could Mystical Fire on the swap, or something like that. Given that this Clef hasn't really hit the field yet, It could be Calm Mind. There's a lot of assumptions that I could make. There's a lot of stuff there, but I'm not really sure. And then I look at the calc and find out that max defense Clefable takes more than half, which is all I need to hear because I know it's going to be max defense because he doesn't beat Urshifu otherwise. Um, he gets a Calm Mind here. I still kill at this point, but after this Protect, now it's a roll in his favor. Um, knowing that he's Protect, he's probably going to be Wish as well. I decide I'm just going to Hyper Voice again, and then as he clicks Wish, I'll go to Celesteela on the Protect and just get the Heavy Slam off and hit something really hard. Um, this game is still losable for me. Melmetal is actually like really good now that Deoxys is dead. So if I do go Celesteela and click Heavy Slam, if the Melmetal comes in afterwards, I probably have to sack something. But and if Clefable has enough health, it can wall out Urshifu. And if he has a helmet in the back, Urshifu could just die of heart disease. So it's not over. There's still some to be played, but I am in a very winning position at this point. So I'm sequencing out turns still. But none of this comes to pass because Hyper Voice, I just get the roll on the Hyper Voice, and this Clefable dies. Now, he didn't even have Wish. His healing move was Draining Kiss, which did like, I think like 16 max because I'm so bulky on this Gardevoir, and he was not invested. So he wouldn't have healed up anyways, but getting that kill was nice. Now, he's very obviously just going to go Melmetal on this. I don't need this anymore. I'm just going to hit it with Mystical Fire. I need Melmetal damage, and I learn something that is key, which is that he's Leftovers and not Assault Vest, which gives me so much damage and lets Urshifu come in and click. Because I also know he's not Chople Berry, so I'm not worried about that either. I get a CC off on Swampert for even more damage. This doesn't, I mean, this could run Bulk Up, but at this point, I don't really care. Celesteela can't die to Swampert in a million years, and I'm running Giga Drain, and that'll clean up the game. So it worked out. Again, very favorable matchup for me. Gardevoir kind of 15-0'd this team. The Banded Zapdos was a really solid bring. I like that a lot. But having no Scarfer also just let me keep speed control for most of the game, which was also really helpful. I didn't really have to worry about it being faster than any of my dudes, but I did end up specking pretty bulky on a lot of this team, so yeah. Well played from Sableye. I don't think there was really a ton of misplays there. I don't think there was a ton he could really do. I think the only one was sacking Cyclozar was a little... I didn't really like, because of Regenerator. I feel like it was just an infinite health machine, and you could have kept it around for longer. But I understand what happened in that there, in terms of, like, he doesn't really have a switch for Gardevoir. He might be thinking that I don't have Moonblast. He might be trying to stop me from getting Regenerator, which damage on Gardevoir is great. All that type of stuff. I get it. It is what it is, but... also, why does it say that my ability is synchronized? It was Pixelate after it. Whatever. We'll just go on to the next one. We got Nilly versus Litfam on this one. Did these two fight in Reg Season? I forget. Yeah, I don't remember, but... yeah, we got Litfam's classic stall team here, with the Dondozo, Glamora, Gliscor, Screamtail, Golden Go, and then we got Hydreigon and Meowscarada to back up the rest, and then we have Entei in the back, in some off-meta mashups, as well as the 1-point Lopunny to round out the team. And then Nilly has this interesting Sinister 6-like core. It's more of a Sinister 7, to be honest, but yeah, I'm misusing that term. It's not a Sinister 6, but we have these 5, which are just about coming to every single game. And then we have Muck at the bottom here, which is going to round out the team about 9 times out of 10. But in case it doesn't, there's a Bramblegast here for Rapid Spin, Poltergeist, Leech Seed. It can do a whole lot. It even gets Strength Sap, which is cool. We got... no, I already mentioned the Rotom Wash. We got the Slurpuff, which can come in some gimmick matchups. If Fairy type is particularly strong. This is also the only Fairy on the team. So this is like kind of a weak point in this team. And then Morexus is in the back, specifically because it gets... was it Water Absorber, Storm Drain? I don't remember. But it gets one of them, which did end up coming in that game versus the Dracovish team that Birds has. So yeah. So prep-wise... this is a nightmare matchup for Mega Glade. Screamtail just hardwalls it, just straight up. In addition, this is a nightmare matchup for Garchomp because it hates Gliscor. Now, Garchomp got Liquidation recently, so it's not as bad as it used to be, but offensive Chump still kind of fucking hates this. In addition, it's going to want to run Helmet a lot of the time in order to eat U-turns from the Meowscarada and destroy it. Also, Meowscarada fucking loves this team. Not Power Trick, Flower Trick, close enough. We have a Low Kick for this. Knockoff's going to hurt this real bad. Triple Axle for this. Any move to hit this. It doesn't have a ton of bulk. Again, Knockoff over here. We can U-turn off the face of this and weaken it a lot over time. Like, Meowscarada fucking loves this team. It's going to eat this shit up. You can bring Muck to stop Hydreigon. Gliscor, in addition, is going to have a field day with this. Rotom doesn't have a ton of survivability, so it can wear that down. And after that, there's not really a ton that just automatically breaks the Gliscor. Muckalola can carry Ice Punch, but Gliscor is faster and gets Earthquake, so that's kind of frustrating. Even Dondozo is like quite good here. It can just completely wall out Garchomp and Mega Gallade. So this is a rough matchup for Nilly. Plain and simple. There's really not a ton of offensive pieces can do other than Tornti. But I only think... Sorry, I didn't sleep great. The only reason Tornti can do anything is because of Terra. So if Livham calls the right Terra and preps accordingly, this game could be over before it even starts. The only other thing to note is Heatran is very strong into this team. Magma Storm into any of this, into a coverage move, is quite strong. Imagine Magma Storming the Entei and clicking Earth Power. For that reason, I feel like it could be likely that Lifan brings something like a Covert Cloak Entei to stop the Magma Storm. But it's more likely that he probably brings something like Boots, given how strong Nilly's Hazard is. Tornti gets Defog, yeah, but this gets dual hazards and is very often known as the world's most expensive hazard setter. Heatran has Stealth Rocks. There's Spin on Brambleghast. There's Defog on Rotom Wash. There's so much control on this team. I mean, even Maractus gets a shit ton of hazards, which the Maractus is not coming, but it's worth noting. Also, Slurpuff gets Sticky Web, by the way. Don't ask me why, but it does. So yeah, this is still a pretty rough matchup for Nilly. Overall, her big offensive pieces just kind of get automatically checked by Litfams, and she doesn't have great answers for Meowscarada. So, we load in. We see that Nilly brings her big six, while Litfam leaves behind Dondozo and Golden Go in favor of bringing Entei and Glamora. I don't really know why Glamora is here. I mean, maybe it's like a Sash thing, and Litfam thinks his control is going to be good enough that it can take one no matter what. Rock is pretty strong into this team once the Heatran goes down, and you do get Earth Power. So something like a Polished Meteor Beam set could totally be in the cards. We're going to see on the right here, we're going to see Terra Fairy Hydreigon. This just means this is an evil bring, because if he puts this in front of Garchomp, there's like a 90% chance he just can't hit it, or Nilly just can't hit it. I was going to say he referring to the Garchomp. I just noticed that the Garchomp's female anyway, so I got it wrong on both ends there. My bad. But the Garchomp's dual stab is Earthquake and either Scale Shot or some other Dragon move, to which you're double immune between the Fairy and the Levitate. So that's just kind of an actual evil bring on Litfam's part. In addition, look at Terra Fairy Terra Blast into this team, especially if Hydreigon brings Earth Power for coverage on the Heatran. Jesus Christ. So that's pretty scary. On Nilly's end, we have Terra Water Torn. I think this is kind of just a very easy, I want a defensive type that is good coverage for Gliscor. I don't know what else this would possibly be, because your Terra Water means that you're neutral into pretty much the whole team except for Meowscarada, which you were going to lose to anyways because Triple Axle and they're flying. But the water gives you Terra Water, Terra Blast into Gliscor, which is great. Yeah. Let's just get into it. I would guess it'd be lead Glamora in this case, but it turns out to be lead Gliscor. Nilly has a very sick bring in Magic Room, which prevents the activation of Toxic Orb. But problem with bringing that She didn't bring a move to hit Screamtail. So this just comes in on Trip Axel, doesn't care, and can Wish Protect. But it just chooses to Protect first to try and stall Magic Room, to which Nilly is just going to knock off, which unfortunately hits the Glamora and puts a T-Spike up. And now we see the gimmick to bringing this to bring this Glamora. You can bring it in on this Muck and get Helmet Chip, um, except you couldn't get Helmet Chip because of Magic Room, which is really funny, by the way. Um, but the other thing is, if you bring it in on Muck and set the T Spike in front of Muck, you can get a T Spike up in front of this team, and it's not very punishable. In addition, you kind of make it so that Garchomp can't come out hard on this Glamora, which really forces Nilly to kind of think on her feet a little bit more, because normally Garchomp would just come out and click EQ, and then you'd throw Muck out the next time you can. Um, so that's pretty rough. We're going to see Mortal Spin, which poisons this. Rotom, as Nilly does not click Hydro, and instead clicks Willow, which is rough. And now Lithium's going to choose to save this on the what is supposed to be a Hydro, but Nilly makes a pretty cool play and chooses just Willow again, knowing that Lithium's probably going to swap out. But now we see the big flaw in Nilly's team that I mentioned earlier. She has no Fairy type. So Draco is free into this team. Now she's going to get this Gallade in to force out this Hydreigon, but again, this is the issue with the Glamora, is the T-Spike is up. Now, again, this Gallade doesn't have things to hit the Screamtail, so the best is Triple Axle, which can miss for all 3 hits. The Screamtail is also faster, so there's a good chance that Nilly wasn't even going to 2-ko. So, very rough overall for Nilly, and now you get this state of play where every time that Screamtail is on the field and Muck comes out, Lifham can just wish and go to whatever he wants. He chooses Glamora because Glamora at this point has already lost its item, and he knows Nilly is going to be mashing the fuck out of Knockoff. So every time Screamtail is on the field, Gallade, has to force out Hydreigon, to which he can go free Screamtail, to which he can wish as Muck comes out, to which he can go Glamora and heal back up for free. And Nilly this whole time is going to lose a bunch of HP across her team to Stealth Rocks, to Toxic Spikes, and maybe even Spikes if Lifem has it, or even Mortal Spin if he chooses to click it on a Mon that isn't a Poison Resist. So Nilly's going to go to Rotom here on the Earth Power, which is really cool. Unfortunately, it's not going to matter. She's going to take a shit ton from Toxic. Now, she could have Pain Split. Unfortunately, this Glamora is max speed, so it doesn't matter. Again, we have the Gallade forced out, but again, like I mentioned earlier, Lifem can just go Screamtail every time. And what's worse is this time, Nilly clicked CC, which means she can't even 2-ko. So now he is an ultra-free Wish Protect this turn. And he chooses to take it, of course. Now, he can't Wish into the Glamora this time, but because of it already being healed up, he doesn't really care. Nilly's going to double into the Gallade, probably calling this. Unfortunately, it just doesn't matter, because every time the Gallade comes out, Screamtail can come out. Yeah. I mean, there's really just not a lot to say here. This is just Nilly not having anything for the Screamtail. Nilly's going to get in the Torrentee and try to force it out with some type of special move, but we see Bleakwind crit does literally fucking nothing at all. Now, thing to note, if you're Lit Fam, this is like a very obvious Eruption Heatran, I feel like. Because why else hasn't it come out yet? Like, if it was Magma Storm Flash Cannon, I feel like it would have been on the field like 5 turns ago. But because we haven't seen that, I think it's right to assume that it is, in fact, Scarf Eruption or Specs Eruption. Probably Scarf, but it's going to be Eruption either way. And that's why it's being kept in the back, because Nilly doesn't want to take Hazard's damage, lowering Eruption power. Oh boy, I can feel Sneeze charging up. That's not good. But yeah, I mean, Nilly just doesn't have a way to break this Screamtail. And every time Muck comes out, which would be the way, Gomora comes out right after. Now, Nilly makes a good double here and gets the Torn back in, but Lifham has a full health Spadef Gliscor that Nilly really can't do a whole lot about. even though it's Terra Water, like it's just so hard. Now this gets pursued, which is cool, but it does 0 and Poison Touch doesn't activate. Um, Actually, it doesn't matter anyways because this Muck is Gluttony Big Berry, so there was no Poison Touch. We're gonna see Mortal Spin. You take a shit ton of damage from Helmet plus Rough Skin, but again, this is still poisoned. We're gonna see Dragon Tail, but I mean, this is still just really difficult. Nilly doesn't Dragon Tail again here for some reason, even though I feel like she should. I hate to kind of gloss over this, but this game was like kind of dominating, and there really wasn't a ton Nilly could do as played. So, you know, it's hard to really analyze. Yeah, Muck goes down to EQ, and at this point, Lifam has such a giant sack lead that like, and now that this is grounded from water, it also gets poisoned by Glamora. So it's just like, this is really difficult. Yeah, another free Draco, and then finally, Heatran comes in, but again, the Entei hasn't hit the field all game. Lifam was very clearly saving it for the Heatran. Um, and while it does take a bit from Helmet Rough Skin, we know that the Hydreigon is probably Scarf. It's only clicked one move, and it's swapped out right after every single time. So we can just Scarf Earth Power, beat the Scarf on the Heatran since it's faster, and that's going to be game. So, really not a lot to go over there. Very dominating for Litfam. I don't know. I feel like it was maybe better if Nilly played more of a like hit and run strategy, like a plot torn to hit the Gliscor, and then as soon as something that walls it comes out, you can just swap out and just get damage over time. Would be good. More hazard control could have been good, but this was a very difficult game for Nilly. Very rough matchup. So yeah, um, good season from her though. A little bit of a comeback season, going 3-5, but still taking a win in playoffs and making top 8. So yeah, we'll go on to the last one, which is Typical versus Noodle. Now, I helped Typical a bit with this game, and oh dear God, this matchup was annoying for him. Yeah, I mean, let's just go over his team, right? Where's Noodle? There he is. Yeah, so we have the two teams here. We have Typical's team over here, and we got Noodle's team down here. Now, I want you to look at Mega Charizard X and ask what can Typical do about it. I want you to think about +1 Megazard X, Tough Claws Flare Blitz into this team. Yeah, not really anything besides like wheezing, I guess. This was very difficult for Typical to prep around. And the issue with that is it's not the only threat. Terapagos can be scary with all the coverage that it gets. It can beat this whole team out. And while it does kind of get owned by Pex, or not Pex, Slowking, he has a very easy Ting-Lu into Slowking. He can put hazards up real easily, to which Typical's best hazard control is defog on Wheezing, which isn't great. This Hitmonlee could be a fuck you set, like it's been all season. Like a Swords Dance Hitmonlee was extremely scary to prep for, just in general. And on top of all of this, Typical does not have a single flying resist. And Noodle has Staraptor. John mash flying moves. So this was rough. Also, like, Dirge was really annoying to break. When Noodle and Typical fought, they fought week... What the hell? They fought week 1 of regular season. I helped Typical prep a little bit, so did Litfam. Me and Litfam, in our mogs, we both brought the same exact Skeledirge set. We brought Terra Psychic with no item to Hardwall Ceruledge. And not just Ceruledge, but Metacham too. I don't know if Noodle brought a set like this. He might have brought no item Dirge. I don't fully remember. If I pick something up while watching the battle, I'll mention it. But with the right prep, Noodle's team was extremely scary to Typical. So one key thing to note is that Typical chooses to leave behind Slowking. The reason he does this is because he had okay answers to Terapagos, and between the bulk on Kyurem and everything else, he needed more options for everything else. So let's get right into it. We're going to see lead Kyurem versus lead Staraptor. This is going to be Terrafly, Brave Bird, Reckless. I don't know if that was banded, but given that he lived, I'm going to assume it's Scarf. And given that Typical stayed in, I think it was also Scarf, and he knew that he lived, so he chose to take that trade. This is actually like the one time where I'll say this is a good trade for both. Noodle doesn't have great answers for Kiram. He doesn't love having to fight this mon, and Typical hates Staraptor. So trading this out is fine. Um, yeah, it could be much worse for both parties, really. We're going to see Mimikyu come out, and Typical is going to go to Wheezing. And now, red flag alert, why the fuck did he click Workup? So, while playing this, we were in Mod VC chat. Typical deafened, and we were watching the game. A couple of us. It was me, Litfam, and like a couple other people. But when Mimikyu came out, when we loaded into the preview, me and Litfam started talking. We're like, why is Mimikyu here? Because if we're being completely honest, Mimikyu, in my experience, Mimikyu runs one of two sets. It runs Cursed Trick Room, and it's Suicide to get Trick Room up, right? Noodle's run this before. Very cool. Very, very cool set. But if you look at Noodle's team, the only, like, Trick Room abuser, really, is, like, Skeledirge, maybe. Which is not the greatest thing in this matchup, because I forgot to mention Terras, but Noodle turned one Terra the flying Staraptor, so that didn't really matter. The other one to note is the Terra Fairy Cerulege. If this is Flash Fire, this kind of beats out Dirge a lot of the time, especially if it can actually hit it with Poltergeist. So Dirge isn't even really the strongest Trick Room. I mean, it could be a thing, but yeah. So already there's some red flags in Mimikyu, because the only other set Mimikyu ever really runs is like SD Life Orb, Sneak and Dual Stab, which gets completely walled out by Fortress, like unimaginably walled out by Fortress. But he clicked Workup. So even before he even clicks Workup, we went, okay, maybe he's Swords Dance and he maybe gets a fire move. So we looked up and we saw that the only fire move that Mimikyu gets is Burning Jealousy, a special move. Mimikyu is base 50 special attack. And then he clicks Workup. And that's when we realized, oh my god, the madman is running Burning Jealousy. Because this is a key part of Draft League, is you need to be able to think on your feet when something like this happens. Because when you're in game versus something like this Mimikyu, you need to immediately throw up all your red flags. One, when you see the Mimikyu, because we all, at this point, we should all know that Noodle is a thinking player. He's a good player. He knows what he's doing. He's not clicking Workup because he thought it was the best way to get his physical attack up. No, he's not stupid. He's clicking Workup for a reason. He brought Mimikyu for a reason. So if he's doing this, it's for a reason. So you need to figure out that reason. And really, the only reason is Burning Jealousy, because otherwise this Mimikyu never gets through Fortress. Now, why would you go through all of that effort as Noodle? Why would you go through all of that effort to bring a Burning Jealousy Mimikyu? Because what if Typical's not, Typical's not stupid either. What if Typical figures it out? Because Workup is an oh shit moment. Why would you bring Workup, right? Why would you trade or not bring Swords Dance? Because if we look at Typical's team, his only Ghost Resist is an Absol. That's it. This is the reason that when Litfam and Typical fought, he brought Specs, Shadow Ball, Meowscarada. Because Ghost is just simply that strong in Typical. When you don't have a Ghost Resist, your team becomes that weak to Ghost that it is extremely exploitable. This is the reason Ghost Resists are so important in Draft. Just in general. Like, they are, like, it is ridiculous what you can get away with when a team does not have any Ghost Resists. Yeah, this is why Spectrier is as good as it is, despite the fact that it is mono Ghost and gets, like, I mean, it gets actually quite solid coverage now, but even before it got coverage, it was solid. This is the reason Dragapult is so good, because Ghost is already very strong. You combine it with Dragon and give it a trillion speed and make it mixed, like, it becomes impossible to prep for. But with no Ghost Resist, this is the fatal flaw in this team. Now, this team has some flaws, but this is the biggest flaw in this team. There's simply no Ghost Resist. This is the reason why Monum was able to beat Typical as well, is because Spectrier was so strong into this team. So even with no, even if Typical predicts the Burning Jealousy, look at Typical's team and look at a mixed Mimikyu with Shadow Claw. That's still really strong. Now Noodle went the extra mile and just chose to run max attack. I think even modest. I don't know for sure, but I think it was max attack modest Shadow Ball Mimikyu with a Life Orb to deal the most damage possible. Now look at that in Typical's team. That's even worse because at least the Weezing has some, like, the Weezing is going to be max defense to try and beat or try and stop the Zard. So that Shadow Ball is going to hit the other way, and that's exactly what we see happen. Even worse, Typical clicked Willow. He didn't even break the sub or the disguise. This is horrible. Weezing is just taking a shit ton of damage, meaning this opens up Zard X tenfold. Now, other thing to note, Noodle brought Serp. Serp should be bad here, by all means, between neutralizing Gas, Weezing, and Ferrothorn, not Fortress, Ferrothorn. I mean, I would say Kiram, but Serp actually gets Dragon Pulse, so we could Leaf Storm into Dragon Pulse, and it's not the worst thing in the world. So it should be bad, but this Mimikyu just got a hit on this Weezing, and it's packing Burning Jealousy for the Fortress. Now, Typical chooses to sack Kiram first. I mean, this is pretty clear. You have a mon that needs to be sacked, you're scared to swap into this, Shadow Ball's going to hurt. Makes sense, right? But he chooses to go Ferrothorn. And this is fatal, because we all know what's about to happen based on what I've said so far. I mean, maybe you didn't if you watched this replay blind, but and even worse, Typical clicks Leech Seed. Again, this disguise is still intact. So at this point, he has to go around and start swapping. He predicts a Burning Jealousy by going to Sterilege, but Noodle saw a low health Ferrothorn and just chose to Shadow Ball, so it didn't really matter. Again, Typical doesn't have Shadow Ball switch-ins, like, at all, so this was horrible. And now he's going to lose to Sterilege, too, likely. But thankfully, he has Sneak, he breaks the disguise, and because of that, he dies to his own disguise break, which is maybe the only time you'll ever see that happen to a Mimikyu. Now, here's the issue. There's a 12% or 19% HP Ferrothorn, and this Weezing is getting OHKO'd by a Leaf Storm at this point, after or getting OHKO'd by 2 Leaf Storms or 1 at +1. This Serp is now the scariest thing ever. What came as a Serp that had a pretty tough matchup into this team is now really strong because this Mimikyu just opened up the only resists. So this is not over for Typical, but this game just became way harder to win because of that Mimikyu. He chooses to taunt the Fortress, but Typical calls it, or maybe he doesn't call it, but maybe thinks it's something like sub and clicks Body Press, gets Body Press damage on Zard, predicts the D-Dance and stays in, clicking Body Press again, and then clicks Endure in order to live the hit from Zard and deal a shit ton of damage in recoil, which is just very good sequence from Typical. Now, he loses his check to Serp. It wasn't really a great check to Serp, but he still loses it. But he kills Megazard X, which is the big threat, right? Unfortunately, this game is still really hard for Typical to win. Lando and Metachamp are both pretty frail. Maybe not frail by most means, but because neither of them can afford to invest in bulk, they're going to end up frail at the end of the day. And the Terrapico still has an intact Terra Shell, and is probably going to be pretty bulky, if we're being real. So you have to think to yourself, this, and if it's not bulky, it can Rapid Spin in front of one of them, become faster. So you have to think that at this point, this Terrapicos can effectively trade with one of Typical's Mons. Let me just get these two dead so you can see the... Yeah, okay, so now we see there's effectively a 3v3, except Weezing is at 29%. Terrapicos can trade with either one of these. So, I mean, there's still outs to win, but let's say you trade Terrapicos with Metachamp, right? Then Serp just beats Lando on its own, because it's faster and it kills with 2 Leaf Storms, and Lando might OHKO with Sludge Wave, but even if it does, Dirge is going to live 1, most likely. And that'll be it, right? So, this is really difficult for Typical. I don't even know if this is winnable at this point, but Dirge comes out, Typical doubles to Lando, knowing that he can't hit this really well, and gets crit, which is really unfortunate. And then even worse, he calls Surf coming in and clicks Sludge Wave, um, which is resisted, of course. And then the nail in the coffin, Imprison on Skeledirge. Again, this is another what the fuck moment. Um, but I don't know if it displays on screen in Showdown what moves you can't click. I think it actually does. But if it wasn't obvious, Skeledirge gets Earth Power. He just locked him out of his only move to hit this Dirge. Yeah. So now he's forced to take another Shadow Ball. And again, this team is incredibly weak to Ghost. So this is pretty much game over at this point. Now, what if Typical just clicked Earth Power there? Little what if scenario for you all. Let's think. One, it could be Shukaberry. We don't know for sure. Maybe it's Shuka to take a hit and then have no item, so Poltergeist Saralash doesn't do shit. We don't know. But I believe Sludge Wave and Earth Power. Sludge Wave is slightly higher base power, but we'll call it even for the sake of this math. I don't feel like pulling out a calc for this. I'm just going to do it in my head. So we got it half because it's resisted. So if it wasn't resisted, it would be about 40%. Yeah. It would get times 1.5 from stab. So call that 60%-ish. And then times 2 from super effective. Probably would have just killed. Maybe. So I actually think it might have just been Shukaberry on Skeledirge. Because I don't know what the plan would have been otherwise. Unless I did something wrong on my mental math. But even if that, like... Even if I did that, because the only thing that would have gone wrong there is the stab. But that doesn't make a lot of... That wouldn't matter, because if it's super effective, it's doing 4 times whatever this damage is, which is 80%. And then add on stab after that, and no matter what the stab multiplier is, it could be 1.1 and it's still going to fucking kill. So, which stab is 1.5, I do know this, but I don't know if that interacts directly with the... Whatever. Too much math. So it probably was just Shukaberry Skeledirge to be acting like this. But even if he does get this kill, this Lando took so much damage from swapping in, it's probably just dead to a Leaf Storm. And if not, Terrapagos gets to Rapid Spin in its face, and then Starstorm into the rest of the team. This game is like pretty much over. Especially the crit from the Shadow Ball really hurt, and the Imprison sealed it. That's just basically game, because now something on this team has to take a Shadow Ball. Typical chooses to sack Weezing, which means he can't sack it anywhere else, which sucks. And then he has to go Medicham. This is always going to live 1. And now he has to take a Shadow Ball for it, which sucks. He has to kill. We actually see leftovers, so it wasn't Shukaberry. Oh. Okay, interesting. Alright, I don't know what to make of that. Maybe it did just live Earth Power, and I'm just doing something wrong. Not sure. But Terrapagos comes in, and again, we mentioned this now just gets a very free Rapid Spin into Starstorm, and that's going to wrap up the game. It's even leftovers Terrapagos. That's so mean. We see a Mist Toxic into Focus Blast. I don't know why we did this. My only assumption is that it's not Starstorm, but I don't know why you would ever do that. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now he has to land the Leaf Storm, and if he misses, he could lose, but he lands it. So the game actually went pretty down to the wire there, but Noodle ends up pulling it out and moving on. Close battle, despite what I think was a pretty rough matchup for Typical. He brought some interesting, very cool ideas. The Endure on Ferrothorn to make Zard take a trillion was a really nice idea. Unfortunately, the surprise of this Mimikyu set and everything else on this team just worked him down enough that it ended up it just worked out for Noodle. And I hate to phrase this like Noodle only won because of the Mimikyu set, and he only won because of the matchup. This is not true. Noodle played this really, really well. I do think this Toxic at the end here was a little bit of a throw, because if you miss the Focus Blast, you lose the game. Or miss the Leaf Storm, you just lose the game. So I didn't really think that was great, but the rest of this game was played really, really well from Noodle. Yeah, I mean, he played to his outs and he got him, just plain and simple. Um, and of course, the Mimikyu set was like actually brilliant. There's not much more to say about that. That hasn't already been said. So that'll be it. Looking forward to this week. The OBS is capturing all this. We only have 2 games left. Well, 3 games left in the league, but we have 2 for semifinals. We have myself versus Noodle. We'll see what kind of crackpot sets he might end up bringing. I'm a little scared of that. And then we got LitFam versus Cable. Speaking of crackpot sets, both these people are known for those. So we will see what happens in those games. But for now, that's all I have for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you the next time.